I figured it was the idea coming back into you once I figured it out. You were right here all along. It's like in my mirror. My mirror staring back at me. I couldn't get any bigger. With anyone else beside me. Now I'm feeling the wrong. That my baby is present. It's not gonna take in my mirror. My mirror staring back at me. Staring back at me.
You're Josh's wife, right? And you deserve one.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're just streaming live here.
Oh, well, you can't do it then, can you?
No.
Can we do it?
Yeah, you can still
okay.
pin.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not on y'all.
My husband do it because he's the greatest. Here's a good one.
Okay.
You want to go?
Yeah.
So I'll end up taking my jacket off probably.
What's on it?
I have t-shirts on.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I have t-shirts.
I need a solid piece of cloth.
Hey guys, if everybody could kind of start migrating towards the front of the stage, we're going to start in the next 3 minutes. So if you guys could start migrating this way, that would be awesome. Thank you.
So tell Daddy to come here for a few seconds. I need him to see this. We're just streaming live. We're just streaming live. Say hi.
Hi. Wish you were here.
How do I get all this off? How do I get the words off?
Don't. Oh, it's that.
Okay, we're good. I'm just walking around. Say hi. We're streaming live. Say hi. You want to show your signs? Show your signs. Show your signs. Say hi. We're streaming live. You guys, 85 viewers so far. This is streaming live online.
Everybody that's on the side, if you guys could start migrating this way so we can kind of get started. Everybody that's on the side, let's migrate to the front, please. Hey, can you guys enjoy spending a lot of time on the thing? I don't think they can hear me. Hey guys that are on the side, if you guys could move in front, please, that would be awesome.
Put this down there with you.
Okay, nobody's moving to the front. Guys, can you move to the front?
Okay, we need to move to the front. Yeah, they are. They are. They are.
We're getting ready to start, so everybody please move to the front of the stage.
Hey guys, let's get in front of the stage, please.
Everybody move to the front of the stage.
Guys, before we start, I wanted to let you guys know again, if you ordered a t-shirt online, or I'm sorry, if you donated, you got a t-shirt, Melissa and Ann will have those after the event. So you can either get with me or her after the event. You can
Hi, how you doing?
actually have them there. They're in a car parked down that way.
Oh my gosh.
How's everybody doing today? Really? That's it?
Awesome.
Awesome. All right, well, good morning, guys. I want to welcome everyone who came, and I think we have like close to 100 viewers online right now from the stream to the 2013 annual MayDay awareness. We've had people fly from here as far as California, Meredith. We're assembling today, guys, for several reasons, and this is obviously going to be an annual thing until the needs of the community are met. Awareness. That's why we're here, guys, to let people know what it is we go through. The next is for support. There's nothing more amazing than being in a group of people that know exactly what it is that you're going through. And lastly, we need to let the world know what we're going through. In the same way AIDS patients before us gathered in large numbers demanding fair treatment, we're doing that. In a few moments, I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn Booth Thomas for the memorial ceremony. I just wanted to open us up with a quick word of prayer. You guys bow with me. God, thank you for this day and for all the people in attendance. I pray that you be with us as we continue to push for a cure. Please be with those fighting this disease daily and with the families who have lost someone to this horrific disease. Give those of us fighting the strength, hope, and courage to carry on. In your name, amen.
Hello? Okay. Hi guys, thanks again. It's always an honor to come before you guys. Did this in 2011 and it's getting bigger and bigger every year. And I thank you all for attending. Now each of you that stand before us are a huge part of playing a role in making a change in Lyme disease. And the people that I'm standing here to honor today are the ones who have one way or another made the ultimate sacrifice. The disease has actually cost them their lives. We begin MayDay with the memorial because we are here to speak for them. Each loss in this community is something that is almost inexplainable. I've never known a community that is so tight. We are brought together by circumstance, but we choose to stay together by choice. We honor the family and friends and remember that they also are victims of this disease. It affects everybody involved. With this, I ask you all today to shout louder, be the voices for those who cannot shout for themselves. And please know that if you continue to stand united, we will make great strides. Great strides have already been made. And it's amazing what we can do when we can come together. I also want to ask you to rely on each other. Because I can tell you now that when you reach out, there is not going to be anybody that's going to let you fall. Just reach out a hand. There will be someone there for you. These people have set a path for change.
What do you call a machine that combines precision-engineered handling, industry-leading power, and a rider-focused design? We call it a Can-Am. From the essentials to fully loaded, you'll find that same combination in every ATV and side-by-side we build. And right now, get your own for as low as $149 a month. Can-Am, the ride says it all. What do you call a machine that combines precision-engineered handling, industry-leading power, and a rider-focused design? We call it a Can-Am. From the essentials to fully loaded, you'll find that same combination in every ATV and side-by-side we build. And right now, get your own for as low as $149 a month. Can-Am, the ride says it all.
And make us strive so much harder. We acknowledge that these people are not just names, that they had families, that they're missed, and the casualties that we've had to date have been way too many. Someone who has not walked this walk has no comprehension of what we go through on a daily basis. Wow. I lost my speech, by the way. I wrote this in 5 minutes, so I figure if you speak from the heart, speak from the heart. I really do care and love all of you. And the most magnificent thing about love is that love knows no denomination. It casts no judgment. And it is the only thing that I know that can surpass death itself. And so I ask you all to be loud today, be proud, continue the work that has been set, and is already in motion. We need you here, and thank you so much for being part of my life. I thank you.
Woo!
Please feel free to lay your flowers before the stage.
No, take those to Jim.
Our first speakers of the day, we have Monty Scarl, an Executive Director, National Capital Lyme Disease, as well as Miss Susan Green, an attorney from Baltimore, Maryland.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Susan R. Green, and I'm an attorney for over 20 years. In the course of my career, I've had the privilege of representing physicians before medical boards around the country, as well as individuals whose lives were impacted by medical negligence. Excuse me. I'm also a Lyme patient. I want to take a moment to thank and commend our hosts and organizers, Josh Cutler, Allison Hoffman-Carana, Melissa Rascio, Carolyn Booth Thomas, and Amber Limbaugh, and I apologize if I mispronounced any of those. Last night when I arrived at my hotel, I learned that we would be competing with construction, metro closing, rolling thunder, and sub-seasonal temperatures. I figured if a group of Lyme sufferers could overcome their disabilities in order to travel from far and wide to be heard, these challenges couldn't faze us. 5 years ago, I had a seizure in court, and that led to my losing my ability to speak, loss of my hands for keyboarding and writing, and complete loss of my memory. It would take over a year of IV antibiotics before I would regain a facsimile of my former life. How fortunate I was to be cared for by some of the brightest and most knowledgeable Lyme literate doctors in the world. I was determined to help those who did not have the resources that I had received. Excuse me. Once I was well enough to resume practicing law, I pledged to dedicate a part of my practice to the protection of physicians who have dedicated their practices to treating a community so misunderstood by mainstream medicine. I'm privileged and honored to do so. I was tested for Lyme repeatedly. However, it would not be until my fourth test that I would be positive. How could that be in today's modern medicine? Sadly, today the standard lab test for Lyme is an antibody test. One must build antibodies to the bacteria in order to obtain an accurate result. This takes time. During early infection, the test can be wrong 60% of the time, according to the experts. It's staggering to think about. And once your doctor tells you that you don't have Lyme, you rule it out. Your health declines. You visit an endless round of doctors who eventually will diagnose you with chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia. Left untreated, it'll go to your central nervous system, and eventually you'll be told you have an imperfect case of MS or ALS. These are the facts, and they're irrefutable. The test is ineffective, yet so many physicians do not know, and the patients are never told. So, 3 years ago, I set about trying to make a change. I wrote the bill that now has become the Virginia Patient Information Disclosure Act. Effective July 1st, in Virginia, every physician who tests for Lyme disease will have to give a disclosure sheet to the patients advising them that the test is ineffective in early diagnosis, that a negative test does not mean you do not have Lyme disease, and if your symptoms continue, you should return to your physician for retesting and additional treatment. The battle in Virginia was nothing short of a war, but the Lyme community prevailed. The arguments on the House and Senate floors were compelling, as politician after politician took the floor to speak of friends and family that they know who are battling the disease. I'd like to sincerely thank Delegates Comstock and Rust, Senators Black and Howe for their hard work in getting the bill passed. What started as a dream became a reality. Dream big. The tide is turning. Support is growing. More importantly, reach out to others for help. It takes a community. This bill could not have gotten passed without the tireless grassroots efforts of NatCap Lyme and its 3,000-plus members. I brought the bill to Monty Skull, the Executive Director of National Capital Lyme, or NatCap as they're known, and together, after endless edits, drafting, educating, lobbying, and testifying, what began as a dream is now law. The credit belongs to the Virginia Lyme community who came together to make this happen. I would like to introduce you now to my friend and partner in the Virginia bill, Monty Skull.
Thank you, Susan. I just want to say before I start speaking that this was truly what got that bill through was the people. It was a grassroots effort. We were organized in Virginia. We had 12 chapters throughout Virginia. Every district was covered. Every delegate, every senator was contacted. And the people, I can't stress it enough, was what got that bill through. So with that said, I'd like to move on. It is a great honor, truly a great honor, to be here today and to address you all. I know you all have come from far, some from near, but the fact that you're here today representing us and representing this cause, it inspires me. Your dedication, your passage, and your passion inspires me. Nearly 4 years ago, I stood here at Freedom Plaza with other Lyme patients, and we looked toward the building that you see to your left, the Reagan building. It was at that time 18 different physicians and doctors were over there reviewing the IDSA guidelines. We could not go in to that building and be a part of that process. So we stood here and looked very quietly in protest toward the building. We had a solitary 8-foot lime green ribbon that stood on that corner, and it spoke very loudly. It really told the story of a community that stands alone fighting for their rights and the cause, to be treated, to be diagnosed, and to have this disease acknowledged.
Whatever mountain you set out to conquer every day, there's new great...
Sadly, 4.5 years later, we are still in the same situation. We are still in the same war, fighting for our doctors, fighting for treatment, fighting for diagnosis, and most of all, for research for the chronic part of this disease that we all experience. I've been a Lyme patient for over 20 years. Sadly, it was 7 years before I got a diagnosis. At that time, this disease had disseminated throughout my body, and I will have it for the rest of my life. It was out of frustration of that situation and the frustration of many of my dear friends that NatCap Lyme was born in 2001. We are a 501c3 that for over 13 years has stood for the patient. Not the doctors, my friends, but the patient. We're here for you. We offer support, number one, and then education. We will never give up our support groups because we feel the one-on-one of people being with each other, speaking with each other, supporting each other is primary in recovering from this disease. As I enter the 7th decade of my life, I look to you, to the young people, to the younger generation that's here today to carry on this cause. It is you that will have to get the change that we need. It is you that will have to tip the iceberg and give us the cure. We are always looking for the cure, but we need the research. It would be your responsibility to do that. At a recent rally up in New York, that was the World Protest Rally, Dr. Ken Ligner, who we all know, said something very important, and I'm going to read that quote. He said, "Patients have the power, but they must unite, stop squabbling, and start to support one another. They must be proactive. They must be resolute in their charge." NatCap Lyme has believed this for so long, almost since its conception, that it is the people, not the doctors, not the researchers, not the politicians, but the people that will make the change. Our power lies in the strength of sheer numbers of us affected by this disease. Our collective determination to challenge the status quo is what will change the tide. We need to come together, to unite, so that our voice is heard around the world. I have the privilege today, and I mean the privilege, to announce a new concept in advocacy and a brand new organization. to our community. It is called Partners Against Lyme and Tick-Associated Diseases, or PAL, P-A-L. PAL believes that progress will only be made when advocacy organizations and individuals unite together to work together. Recognizing, and this is very important, y'all, recognizing that distinct organizations bring a variety of specialized skills, expertise, and experience to share, PAL encourages member groups of this organization to retain their own identity and independence. In other words, when a group like NatCap Lyme comes into this PAL group, we will only be one of many. This time, the direction will be equally shared by many groups. And so this will be a united coalition. And we are hoping that everybody today will come ask questions of us, find out about this new organization. Let us no longer remain voiceless victims. Let us inspire each other and collectively engage in nonviolent action on a national and international level to advance awareness, promote patient advocacy, improve patient support, and fund research for Lyme and tick-associated diseases. My friends, life is a journey. There's a beginning and there's an end. It's what happens in between the beginning and the end that's important. Let us take that journey together. Let us find the solution. Come and join us as we make that change. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Dr. Samuel Shore talking about patient advocacy. Actually, I'll be talking about scientific issues in Lyme disease. And I want to thank the organizers of this event, Josh Cutler and others, and appreciate the opportunity to speak before you. I'm a primary care internal medicine trained clinician who, through my interest in chronic fatigue over the years, have kind of backdoored into this whole Lyme arena and present to you today as chair of the Loudoun County Lyme Commission and member of the Virginia Governor's Task Force on Lyme Disease, what my perceptions have been over the last several years. About 10 years or so ago, 2003, I published a paper on chronic fatigue syndrome. And chronic fatigue syndrome is defined as a condition of severe fatigue such that an individual is incapacitated to a degree less than 50% of their functionality as to where they were prior to becoming ill. A duration of at least 6 months, such that other causes of fatigue have been ruled out. And there's the bugaboo about that diagnosis because there are no diagnostic markers. It's a diagnosis of exclusion. And that in the paper that I published in 2003, I discussed, among other things, how a majority of patients present with a myriad of other symptoms which you're probably all familiar, such as fractured non-restorative sleep, blood pressure issues we call dysautonomia or autonomic dysfunction, such as NMH or POTS, cognitive impairment, mood abnormalities, hormone problems, etc. But around 2003, I began hearing about these folks who had Lyme disease presenting as chronic fatigue and began to explore in my attempt to better manage my very complex patients. And one thing led to another, and I began to realize, in fact, that the powers that be, the IDSA, the CDC, etc., have been promoting a diagnostic strategy called the two-tier system that is profoundly flawed. And it's already been mentioned by the previous speakers that under the best of circumstances, on average, this may be 50% sensitive, so that a clinician in good faith may feel that a patient is coming to their office and think that Lyme disease is a serious consideration. They get a test, and every other patient under those circumstances may be told they don't have Lyme disease, which is obviously totally unacceptable. So that when we say Lyme disease, we generally mean certainly classically the infection due to the organism Borrelia burgdorferi, but most in the Lyme community, if you will, recognize that it's Borrelia and co-infection. So it's a very complex multi-system process. And that this two-tiered system is totally inadequate. In fact, one of the statements coming out of the position statement of the Virginia Governor's Task Force was that there is no blood test that can rule out Lyme disease. So here you have a complex called chronic fatigue syndrome that requires other problems to be ruled out, and you have a condition, Lyme disease, that has all the potential to create those symptoms but can't be ruled out. And there is then the problem. And soon after 2003, I began looking at my chronic fatigue syndrome patients, and with a different realization that, in fact, they may have blood test negative Lyme, and began exploring other alternative diagnostic criteria using IGeneX and other testing systems, such that I began exploring that a good number of my patients actually I felt had blood test negative Lyme, and began treating them with prolonged antibiotics in a directed, carefully supervised manner. But to give you an example, I had a 42-year-old gentleman who presented with a 2-year disability, wanted to work. He was a lawyer. He was so frustrated, but he had, for all intents and purposes, the diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome. But in further evaluating him, to which I alluded, recognizing by history he spent much time outdoors in Northern Virginia, endemic to Lyme disease, the blood tests that we got suggested with the highly specific bands that, in fact, he may have Lyme. So what will hurt him to try this antibiotic regimen? And as it turns out, slowly but surely, he started to get better. And 15 months later, he's working full-time. And this was because of the change in paradigm with respect to the insights of looking for more creative ways to diagnose Lyme disease. I began more aggressively evaluating all of my chronic fatigue syndrome patients with that in mind, and began seeing incredible changes in terms of benefits therapeutically, gains that I would never have achieved with just treating them without that Lyme reality. And subsequently, in 2011, 2 years ago, I published in peer review an analysis of my database, and I analyzed 210 patients in my practice that fulfilled criteria for chronic fatigue syndrome. And that had to include a negative blood test for Lyme disease, according to the IDCA and CDC. I then looked for secondary markers, a highly specific band, the presence of a co-infection, recognizing that Lyme is the #1 tick-borne disease in the United States. And if any of those criteria were met, I included them in my highly suspicious for Lyme disease. And of my 210 patients, guess how many had highly suspicious markers? 209, 99%. I then treated them aggressively with antibiotics and tried to track them with a metric that I generated. It's a symptom questionnaire that graded by number the degree that at any given point in time their symptoms were rated on a scale of 0 to 3, fatigue, pain, etc. And over time I was able to determine how well people were responding.
The party is back.
This had statistically significant improvement with antibiotics. 62% of my chronic fatigue syndrome patients had Lyme disease. And a number about 26% clinically improved but just didn't reach statistical significance. So that I believe in this paper, in peer review, that we were able to support not only the diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome, a number being due to Lyme, that chronic Lyme disease, in fact, does exist, that it is treatable, that it represents a chronic infection that is amenable to antibiotic therapy, and that it's a chronic relapsing condition. One other series in relation to scientific advances, another area of interest that I've evolved in my attempt to provide my patients with expanding options is something called hyperbaric oxygen treatment. And we've opened a center just across the river in relation to a study that William Fife in 1998 published, looking at over 70 patients with Lyme disease, that without antibiotics and using this technology of hyperbaric oxygen, he was able to show significant clinical improvement. Hyperbaric oxygen represents a treatment strategy of introducing 100% oxygen under pressure, and that has the ability, among other things, to improve immune function and under certain circumstances actually kill the infection. And so that is another strategy that we're employing under certain circumstances. So in closing, I'd like to reiterate the fact that a large proportion of my patients in Lyme endemic Northern Virginia with, quote, chronic fatigue syndrome actually had seronegative or blood test negative Lyme disease. That chronic Lyme disease does in fact exist, and that if it weren't for the Lyme advocacy supporters such as yourselves, we wouldn't be able to generate the legislation that's been discussed, that we wouldn't be able to move this process forward. And I am absolutely convinced that we are far better today than we were a year ago because of your support. Thank you.
Okay, next to the stage we have Katina Matritz talking about scientific advancements.
Well, hello everyone. It's really great to be here, and a special thanks to Allison Hoffman, Karuna. She's over there. She's the one that invited me to come down from New Hampshire to give you all a message of inspiration and hope, because I'm one of the lucky ones that beat a very advanced case of Lyme disease, and I share it in my wonderful book, Out of the Woods, for those of you who have read it. So this is really impressive. It's monumental and certainly an honor for me to be here speaking to you, offering inspiration and hope that no matter how battered and broken you feel, you can reclaim your life from Lyme disease. You can heal, you can thrive, you can shine. If I did it, you can do it. It took me 10 years, but I overcame advanced Lyme disease. Healing is a journey, sometimes a long one, an arduous one, but you can succeed. Chronic Lyme disease knocks us to the floor. It strips us of all we know and value and care about. Many of us have suffered decimating losses from Lyme disease, especially those of us who were not diagnosed, were misdiagnosed, or not treated fully enough in the early weeks of an acute infection. I know all of you here before me know about suffering. You know about fear, you know about despair, about loneliness, about betrayal and confusion. You know what it is like to hold on to your soul in the dark of the night when you feel you are dying and cannot endure another day of pain, a lack of medical help, or feel your money and marriage and friendships slipping away from you. It's horrifying to feel so helpless, to be so dependent, and also not to know what to do. I tell you, you're not alone. Look at all of us here today. We are here because we all share something in common: the story of mismanaged Lyme disease. We are here because we care. We care about our loved ones. We care about our neighbors.
we care about ourselves, and we even care about complete strangers because we want to stop this aggressive bacterial infection. We want to stop the rampant damage Lyme disease creates, and we want to stop the lack of education and ignorance out there. We want to wake up the world. We want Lyme disease prevention taught in community centers and schools. We want our medical world trained in diagnosis and proper acute and long-term care. We want insurance support. We want political action. We want an annual Lyme screening test nationwide. We want a vaccine. We want a healthier future. We want our families safe, and we want this epidemic to be arrested. I have been speaking extensively, sometimes 2 and 3 times per week, on behalf of Lyme disease awareness with my book, Out of the Woods, for the past 16 months, non-stop throughout the country. East Coast, West Coast, Florida, the South, New England, and even the Mid-Atlantic, in churches, town halls, libraries, bookstores, granges, healthcare centers, and even an opera house, I have met the Lyme weary, the caregivers, the concerned, and the tragic nature of this illness. In 2012 alone, I gave 39 two-hour talks on Lyme disease. The pulse point, I feel, is that of alarm. The American public is waking up to their vulnerability in the midst of a swiftly moving infectious disease epidemic, and they sadly see no real help is available to them. Every 30 years or so, Western society experiences a massive, life-threatening infectious illness. Thousands of lives are lost. Medical science is initially unequipped. Then they rally and find a treatment, or a vaccine, or a drug. If we look backwards in time, we can see the historical trends. In the 1980s, it was AIDS. Prior to that, it was polio. Before then, it was diphtheria. Then tuberculosis, smallpox, malaria. Well, guess what? We're in the midst of the next life-altering infectious illness epidemic, and it is called Lyme disease. And medical science is behind the curve. We need help, and we need it now. Not a month, week, or day can pass where we allow another innocent person to fall victim to this treacherous organism. What a whirlwind, what an experience I have lived in 16 months. How blessed am I to once again be well and able, after losing 10 years of my life, to misdiagnose Lyme disease. I lost it all. My career as a homeopath and healthcare columnist, my income, my marriage and home, my health and well-being. Compared to the bedridden status of 7 years ago, the wheelchair necessity I lived with, and 2 weeks to sit up to even cut my food, to be recovered and renewed and traveling like a kid in my 30s is a gift I do not take for granted. I have a second chance at life, and I now walk my path with pride and intention, for I have survived the calamity, and I choose to live with purpose. My purpose is to end the suffering. I share my story, my holistic healthcare knowledge, and my empathy along the way. The crowds that come out to meet me are of all sizes. A handful in a health food store in Napa, California, and over 200 bursting out the doors in Massachusetts, North Carolina, and Rhode Island. Everywhere I go, all are in need, struggling, searching, and often confused. People are on walkers, in wheelchairs, ashen gray faces, trembling limbs, stuttering speech, broken spirit. some folks are too weak to attend, and a loved one comes out for them to gain some guidance or glean some hope. Your wounds are palpable to me. The mishandling of the Lyme disease situation is atrocious. The government and medical sector have missed the boat on a modern-day Holocaust. For 35 years, a critical, life-destroying illness has been neglected. It's egregious to witness the damage, the despair, the lost lives and money because we let a microscopic organism and its co-infections pirate their way into our backyards and houses. Sometimes, as I move amongst small towns and into big cities, I feel like Florence Nightingale, working tirelessly alone in the trenches of suffering. I bear a loving heart full of compassion and kindness, and my book of inspiration as I minister to the emotional and spiritual needs of the walking wounded and their families. It's not hard to do, to hold your hand, to offer the hug, but sometimes it is daunting when I hear of a paralyzed child or I meet a woman who is kept alive on a feeding line, her insides raw and inflamed from the infection. So many of you are so fragile. I witness all that you have been stripped of. And still, I bring a message of hope, reaching deep into the core, to the marrow of your heart's true calling. For besides tending to your broken body, it is just as critical to tend to your breaking spirit. The emotional and spiritual suffering of this illness is just as critical as the physical. In my opinion, Lyme disease is the epidemic infectious illness of our era that asks us to marry the two hands of healthcare. It asks us to take the scientific diagnostics and pharmaceutical weaponry of traditional allopathic medicine and unite it with the restorative therapeutics of natural medicine. For we all know two hands working together are better than one. Killing off the bugs of Lyme disease is only part of the healing equation. Rebuilding the massive depletions of this infection is essential if you wish to be fully well. This is where the valuable work of a naturopath or a clinical nutritionist, an herbalist, or an integrative medicine doctor comes into play. Lyme disease is saying, wake up, America. We are behind the times here regarding integrative medicine. To recover from Lyme disease, we need centers where complementary medicine is integrated in one setting with allopathic medicine and alternative medicine instead of piecing together practitioners from all over town and state like so many of us have had to do. And just as critical as this externally directed physical care, we must all learn to use our inner healing powers. Lyme disease guts us. It strips many of us of our career identities, our self-confidence, our well-being. Fear, insecurity, anger, shock, sadness can be overwhelming. But we are each blessed with a mind and willpower and a heart of true love and courage. When sick, we need to turn on these precious inner healing tools. People who thrive in spite of disaster, shipwreck survivors, war-torn victims, and even Lyme disease recoveries all share something in common. Even in the throes of the horror, they see themselves in a better future. They see themselves happy and whole and healthy. They don't live in the horror of their suffering, but they see beyond it to a better place. In order to overcome Lyme and be well, it is vital to use the power of our mind-body pathway. You must believe in your vibrant future. You must see yourself there. Belief is a powerful energy. It triggers the brain to create healthy, feel-good neurotransmitters, which in turn jumpstart the immune system. Belief is something you can each instill. You can set a healing intention of your own. You can set an image of yourself in your mind's eye that is strong and vital and glowing. I did this when I was wrecked. 5 years trapped at home, trembling on my living room sofa, in despair, and too weak to walk without help. My doctor said my nervous system was so fragile that in the older days he would have hospitalized me on tranquilizers for repair. Instead, he had me mimic the rest cure at home. It was an isolating and cavernous time for me. But in receiving a Lyme disease diagnosis after 5 years of prominent New England doctors and hospitals telling me nothing was wrong with me other than chronic fatigue syndrome and migraines, I actually felt hope. My Lyme diagnosis gave me hope because I believed. I believed I could overcome a bacterial infection. That belief gave me power. That power gave me a mission. That mission made me work hard at my commitment, and I learned how to use the mind-body healing pathway. And in those months, I visualized myself as strong and vital, radiant and healthy, spreading my arms high and wide like a grand copper beech tree. Well, here I am, 8 years later, standing before you, and I am that very image I willed myself to be. Thank you. It's hard work. No more Lyme disease, no more chronic fatigue syndrome, and I am impassioned to help change the future. To change the future of this Lyme disease atrocity, to wake up the world, and to help all of us use our collective intention to bring healing for all. Right now, here today, in addition, I utter a plea. May this illness be stopped. May the people in power start to listen. Your voices, your tireless efforts, and your willingness to leave your homes, and many of you on limited resources, find your way here to Freedom Plaza is an outpouring of passion, of intention, of commitment, and belief. I applaud every brave spirit here today. Your will is mighty, your heart is powerful, and together we are creating a groundswell. Our history, our collective story, our understanding of what Lyme disease looks and feels like moves us to take risk, to speak the truth, and to manifest a change. We will amend the suffering, the denial, and the crooked thinking. I believe in the power of the mind, the calling of our heart, and the mighty force of our will. When we can draw on these inner resources, well then we can move mountains. We can affect change. We can heal ourselves, others, and the planet. If we can all focus together, aligning our hearts and minds in a common energy, then that unified force gains power and momentum. I believe we can change the future of Lyme disease. I feel the awareness shifting, the call of hundreds of thousands of voices in dire need, pleading for help. I am honored to be a voice for others, to push the envelope and to shift the tides regarding this illness. And we all need to bind together. In my final moments with you, right now, I would like to set a healing intention. A healing intention for the Lyme community, as well as for each of you individually. let us take a moment together. If you want, close your eyes as it helps you center, and put your hand over your heart. In your mind's eye, see yourself as powerful and strong and healthy. Imagine yourself in a place that's beautiful, that you love. Now that you see yourself with that image, drop your awareness down into your chest, into your heart space. Feel how steady and knowing the heart is. It is from our hearts that we heal. Now we have binded our mind and our heart together with our willpower to create an intention. And I speak these words of healing intention with hope. Hope for our healing, for the Lyme community's healing, and for an end to this epidemic. Here are my words of healing intention. I believe in a healthy future for myself, for my loved ones, and those who suffer with Lyme disease. I trust that the right people, resources, and energies will align to arrest this epidemic. With my own personal will and intention, I move forward into a happier, healthier, Lyme-free tomorrow. May each and every one of us be guided and protected today and always. Thank you for having me here today. You are wonderful, gifted people, and it is a privilege to be in your company. You're welcome, and you're all going to get better.
Okay, our next guest speaker is Ms. Sharon Rainey.
When I sat down to write this speech, I put on a workout shirt that my Aunt Betty wore in her last months while she underwent treatment for Lyme disease. She died from complications of Lyme in 2002 at the age of 57. I wanted her spirit to be with me today as I prepared for today. So Aunt Betty, this one's for you. I was originally diagnosed in 2009 after 29 years of misdiagnoses. I was diagnosed with Bartonella and Babesia. After a 22-month course of oral antibiotics, I have now tested clear for Bartonella for 2 years. It is possible to heal. I am still working on that pesky Protomyzoa rheumatica, however, but I'll get them. Things that I thought that I would never be doing 5 years ago include considering coffee enemas, scheduling laughter time every day with a dose of the television comedy Big Bang Theory, writing my second book, taking extra time to play with my puppies because it just makes me feel good, going without makeup for weeks at a time, taking 50 pills a day and being grateful for every single one of them, knowing each has a specific healing task, and drinking green smoothies willingly. Green smoothies are the metaphor from how my healing started. 3.5 years ago, when I started treatment, my physician was very gentle, and in a subtle way, he told me I would be going through many changes in order to heal. I heard him, but I didn't really understand what changes I would undergo. I did hear him say over and over again, your number one job is to heal. Every decision
What do you call a machine?
on the question, will this help me heal? And if the answer is no, then don't do it. First came the learning to say no.
restricting my schedule, required resting periods. I didn't go outside after 5 p.m. I only did one activity per weekend. Now, some of this happened as a result of my meds and my treatment schedule, and surviving those cute little episodes we call herxes. Sometimes I didn't have a choice of staying in bed for the weekend. It's just what I had to do. But after the first 6 months, I noticed I was getting better. At the beginning, I also originally scored high for arsenic poisoning. I read a 2006 study from the Institute for Agriculture and Trade Policy that intimated I might want to start eating organic chicken. I did, and my arsenic poisoning disappeared. So I branched out and now eat mostly organic foods, fruits, and vegetables. Then 6 months into my treatment, my physician suggested I try green smoothies to help with some of my digestive problems. My reply was quick: next topic, because I am so not doing that. But he planted a seed, and when I was miserable enough and ready, I reconsidered his suggestion. And then a fellow Limey urged me to try it. He reminded me that green smoothies reduce inflammation. They help to heal the digestive tract. They regulate the body. They're great sources of B vitamins. And I kept saying, if it doesn't taste good, I am not drinking it. He gave me a recipe and I tried it. Just fruit, spinach, and water in a blender. And I liked it. And it helped my digestive tract a lot. So I made another one and another one and another one. Then my husband came in. He wanted to make a few suggestions. If any of you know my husband, you know how that went. He wanted me to add carrots and celery and chia seeds and his favorite, beets. He likes the nutrient-dense green smoothies. Come on, you need to drink these. They're good for you. But it came down to this for me. Either I drink a simple one with fruit and veggies, or I don't drink them at all. So he drinks the nutrient-dense ones, and I don't. I keep my green smoothies simple, just fruit, vegetables, and water. If I want to get exotic, I add in raw, unfiltered honey or coconut oil. But for the most part, I like them simple. And when I drink them, my whole body feels better in an indescribable way. It's just an overall feeling of well-being that disappears when I go more than 3 days without them. So now I drink green smoothies because they're good for me, because I like them, and because they make me feel better. I know they are a part of my healing process. But green smoothies are a lot like our treatment protocols. One size does not fit all. Each one is different with different ingredients. No two are the same. There is no one right way. Everyone responds differently, and therefore the differences need to be respected. Everyone has their own pathway to healing. So if your healing includes chia seeds and beets, more power to you. But if you need just fruit, greens, water, and a teaspoon of honey, go for it. Thank you.
Okay, and next up we have some of our patients with Lyme disease. We have Ms. Bambi Alberts.
Hey guys, how y'all doing? You're looking at a healthy Limey right now. I've been in remission for 8 months. As long as we don't get another infection this year, it'll be longer. But I'm also one of those success stories that got remission through a completely herbal protocol. I have completely cut out doctors in my life. Completely. The medical system has poisoned me enough. With that said, I have 2 things I have to read here today. The first one is from Cheryl's Lyme page. She's from New Jersey. She could not make it. Wishes, hopes, and dreams are all it seems I have these days. Wishing for warmer days, hoping for a more peaceful future for humanity, and dreaming of what I
may still accomplish in the years ahead. I'm more a dreamer than a doer these days. That's all right, though, because some of my dreams have become reality, and I'm really proud of the work I did to make some small things happen. I have a lifetime of a bucket list that keeps changing. Some things are added, some things are taken away. My time in the Amazon forest is off the list, but replaced with creating a legacy, or at least great memories for my grandchildren. Living with chronic illness is no cakewalk. That's for sure. Living with this particular disease seems beyond unbelievable because of what we have to go through, just to get doctors to listen to the laundry list of symptoms and come out of the visit with yet another list of antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, and being told there's nothing that can be done for you. I can tell you the number of times I've left the doctor's office in tears, ready to commit myself to a psychiatric facility. I felt foolish, doubting myself and wondering if it's all possible to be a hypochondriac and not know it. Not a single doctor in 30 years ever asked or thought to ask what my lifestyle was. Had they asked, just maybe one of them would have looked at the potential of vector-borne illness. I've been given quinine for severe muscle cramps and spasms. I've been given maximum dose that could be taken of Vioxx, and what was taken off the market, it was then Celebrex for the horrible joint pains. I took Tramadol for the constant headaches that turned into migraines regularly, and the joint pains. Max Salt was added to the list, prednisone for inflammation. You all heard all these. I mean, bone aching, exhaustion, but what about where by about 1 p.m. at work, I just couldn't move anymore and had to find excuses to sit in the office and do paperwork. Memory lapses, loss of words, confusion became a huge problem. My knees and elbows were giving out. I had surgery to repair tendons in my right elbow and still not working. I've had gallbladder scans, chest x-rays, liver scans, thyroid scans, CT scans of the brain, EEG, EKGs, echocardiograms, sinus x-rays, stress tests, and ultrasounds from the neck to the ankles. I've had blood work for everything under the sun. At least that's what my doctor said. Chronic sinus infections led to more steroids. When all of these drugs didn't work and all these tests came back normal with the exception of a faulty heart valve and growth in my thyroid and getting progressively worse, my doctor hit the proverbial wall and referred me to mental health. I accepted my fate and went to see the psychologist to see what sort of mental illness I had that's causing me such misery. I let loose in the visit, crying through the whole story of events that brought me there. She had me describe in detail my symptoms and events surrounding some of my worst flares. By the end of the hour, she told me that for sure I had something physical going on and that the doctors need to keep trying to find the cause. What a weird feeling at the end of that visit. I'm not crazy, woohoo! But I'm still in pain and look for, and I just gave into the idea that I might just live until I die. I was at a point of being very fed up with being told I'm fine. Later in time, I ended up in New Jersey to help my daughter and her husband with the kids until they got out of the military. My daughter had been sick for a while with a fever and fatigue and headaches, among other symptoms, most of which sounded very much like mine. She had what doctors thought was an infected bug bite on her toe months earlier. In her research to find out what the cause could be, her doctors had no idea what was causing her symptoms. She had stumbled upon a tick-borne illness. She made lots of sense in her case because the military base she worked on was drowning in ticks. Almost daily, there were people pulling ticks off of themselves or finding them crawling up their legs. She asked to be tested, and sure enough, she had Lyme disease and Bartonella. Keeping her story short here, because her fight was so incredibly long, eventually involving a congresswoman from California trying to help her to get treated. She lost that 3-year battle, and someday I'll attempt to tell you the whole story. I found an internal medicine doctor that would test me. There was no hesitation at all by the doctor because Lyme disease is commonly found in this area of New Jersey. My results came back, and sure enough, Lyme disease and ehrlichiosis and majorly high numbers of EBV tests, which explains the fatigue. I was able to get treatments for about 6 months and had some improvements. But with the loss of medical insurance, I wasn't able to continue. That's a story we all know. It's been nearly 3 years and only using some herbal remedies once in a while to keep symptoms at bay. But I've slid back to where I was to begin with. So here I am doing what I can, sitting here at the computer with a new or evolving set of wishes, hopes, and dreams. My story and my daughter's story is being repeated thousands of times over and over. Victims with the exact or nearly the same experiences and stories to tell. So many of them housebound, unable to get out of bed, or confined to wheelchairs. I thank God for the advent of social networking and the internet, as this helps enable people to be able to reach out to others. My wishes, hopes, and dreams for the moment, I wish the attacks on these patients that have suffered for so long comes to an end. I hope that the Infectious Disease Society of America, the Maternal Lyme and Associated Diseases Society, find a way to get together for the one goal of eradicating this disease, or at the very least, to come to a middle ground, somewhere that better treatment options or more options are allowed to patients. I dream of what it would be like to have my life back. See all those that are so very ill be able to take a walk outside in the sunshine, or go for a ride on horseback, or grab a board one more time and surf the waves. That was from Cheryl. Now me. When the sirens go. I just wanted a chance to speak to you all about what I've been going through, what you've all been going through. As you all know, I am in remission, have been in remission for 8 months, all through herbal. I'm the herbal girl. I don't do any doctors. I haven't seen a doctor in years. I always see an herbalist. He takes care of all of my needs now. I believe most, if not all of you know and or recognize me. In case you don't, where the hell have you been? My name is Bambi, and unless you happen to know another, no last name is necessary. I have been advocating for our rights to choose our personal remedy for many years now. I won't bore you with all my personal story. You all almost seen it anyway. For those of you that don't, look me up on Facebook or catch me later and I'll give you a rundown. The sight of you all absolutely thrills me, as does the progress we have made. I'm not here to complain about the IDSA or the Medical Society. I'm here to remind you that we have made strides. We have made great strides in the past 8 years that I've been dealing with this. We've achieved this progress, yeah. We've achieved this by contacting our local, state, and federal officials, holding local rallies, handing out Lyme brochures at malls, carnivals, nature walk entrances. Wherever I go, I carry them with me. I don't let anybody walk by without taking one. I want to thank you all for your support of me and each other. Because without each other, we wouldn't have anything. We all know that. If I hadn't had your support over the last several years, I don't know where I'd be. The education I've gotten from all of you is so much more than I've gotten from the medical field. So much more. I hope over time that we can all be well. We don't have to have these anymore, especially in this cold weather. And we can just keep in contact because we're friends, not because we're limey. Because that's what we want. We're tired of green, although green has become my favorite color. What is up with that? And my speech is done, but I want to tell you all how much I love each and every one of you, You become so close to me, and I'm hoping we don't have to come back next year, but if we do, I'll be here. Thank you.
All right, our next guest speaker is Miss Amy Claire.
Hi guys, in case you don't notice, I'm from Ohio. My name is Amy Claire, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about congenital Lyme disease. If I don't blow away first. Woo, hold on. I guess that's too close. My mom has Lyme disease, and my brother and I have Lyme disease, and so do both of my sons. I'm pretty much just going to tell you my story and how we figured out that we had congenital Lyme disease. When I was younger, my mom was always sick. She had chronic fatigue syndrome she was diagnosed with. Fibromyalgia was her last diagnosis. And probably around the same age she got sick, I started to get the same symptoms and a lot of the same problems. When I was younger, though, I mean, I was sick a lot, you know, for a child, which is really common with the congenital Lyme. Kids, sometimes they don't find out till they're older. And, so anyways, sorry, I got a little off track. When I was about 30, I was going to various doctors, doctor after doctor, trying to figure out, you know, what's wrong with me. And the one doctor said, oh, you're just getting old, you're 30. And I thought, well, darn, you know, well, I feel like, you know, I'm 70, so can't wait till I get that age, right? But you know, I'm pretty stubborn, so I knew that there was something going on. I knew whatever it was I had, my mom had, you know, and so I just kept, I mean, I was sick, I was couch-bound, I couldn't work anymore, I used to be a realtor, so I figured, you know, keep researching online. That's pretty much what I did. It took me about 2 years of, you know, researching online to figure out myself that it was Lyme disease, not from a doctor. And then I found the doctor, and I went, and I actually tested CDC positive, which is pretty rare. And then I talked to my mom, and I said, you know, hey, this, you know, what's going on? And she's kind of like, nah, you know, I have fibromyalgia, whatever, you know. So I kept bugging her, because she was getting pretty sick. I mean, because she even had Rocky Mountain spotted fever, so she was, about right before she got diagnosed, she kind of felt like she was dying at that point in time. She was that sick. So she did decide to go get tested, and she's been in treatment since then. Again, my brother was always sick too, so kind of just snowballed from there, and we got him tested. My kids were having a lot of health issues, got them tested. That's kind of how we figured it out. My kids, my son, Brandon, is actually sitting right here with a brown hat. Put him on the spot. That's my youngest. He was the most sick, and, you know, he does scouts and stuff too, so I'm not sure if he could have been also bit at one time. I mean, he did always have health issues. He had asthma. He was just always sick as a baby. But, you know, he was in scouts, and so around, I think it was like 2007 or 8, he started to get really a lot of classic Lyme symptoms, and in 2008 is when I was diagnosed, so I kind of picked up on the symptoms, and I knew, you know, what it was. So I started looking for someone to test him, which, if any of you have kids that are sick with Lyme disease, you all know how hard that is to find. So many years later, and many, oh, I knew that was going to happen. Oops. If no one could find it. Anyways, many years later, and, you know, many calls and a lot of people helping, and I ended up finding a natural doctor in Ohio who would do the test for us. And then my other son, Adam, who's not here right now because he graduates next week, he had chronic fatigue syndrome pretty much, is how I would label that. And so we decided to also treat him. It was March of 2009 that the kids were diagnosed, and we did antibiotics for about 3 years, and they are right now only doing natural treatments like Bambi. We don't go to doctors anymore. But They're doing a lot better. My older son went back to school. Oh, because they all had to be out of school. I forgot to mention that. Sorry, I got off track. They were doing online school. Brandon's been doing it since 5th grade, and he's in 8th grade. And my other son did it for about 2 years. He was able to go back to school last year for his senior year, and he's able to work a part-time job, my older son. And he's still not 100%, you know, and he has to take it easy and, you know, always having to worry about if you overdo it. He's going to Europe this summer, so for a trip with school, so, and then he's going to college. So my younger son's actually going to high school next year. We'll see how that goes. But I kind of didn't even look at my note cards. I just talked, so. I just pretty much wanted to, you know, get the word out there because we have 3 generations with Lyme, and I'm sure there are a lot of people. I know a lot of people whose whole family have Lyme, you know, and nobody can work, and you can't find doctors, and can't get treatment, can't get tests, and, you know, that's what we're all here for. And our kids are sick, and they're missing out on prom and dances and, you know, sports. And my oldest son used to run track, and he had to quit that. And, you know, it's sad what they're missing. At the same time, I think we've learned to become very, very close as a family because of all we've been through. We traveled. We were from Ohio. We went to PA for a little while, which wasn't too bad. Then we had to go down to North Carolina. We went up all the way up to Wisconsin. So we've been all around for the doctors. But, you know, I just think that I'm really, you know, glad to be here and see all of you here and fighting for our cause. And, you know, at the very least for our kids, because there are so many kids sick and sadly some dying. And pretty much just want to say keep up the fight and love y'all.
Okay, our next speaker is Miss Julie Wilson.
I'm going to keep mine quick. I suffered Lyme most of my life, but didn't know that that's what was my problem. In 2008, I was completely bedridden. Hopped between several doctors, finally got a diagnosis. At that time, my son was 4 years old, and he was quirky and had a few strange illnesses that doctors sort of just brushed off. At one point, we finally said, you know, the more I learned about Lyme for myself, the more I said, wait a minute, there's something else going on here. As I started reading the symptoms of what happens in children, especially a lot of emotional symptoms, tantruming and things like that in older children that you wouldn't expect. So I asked our family physician, I said, is it possible that my son has Lyme and that maybe he got it from me? And she didn't laugh at me, but that was basically her response was, yeah, right. She didn't even think I had Lyme for real. She thought that the doctor that told me I had Lyme was lying to me and that I was crazy. But I eventually found a pediatrician that would test and treat for Lyme and Lyme illnesses. And sure enough, my son had not only Lyme, but also babesia that he had gotten from me. So we treated him for quite a while. And after a little over a year of antibiotics, he was symptom-free. So we were really excited. He was in remission. At that time we moved, no problems. Until when he was in 4th grade, some of those emotions